Hello students, after a long gap we are back for your academic year, that is 2020-21. I welcome you all. Let us start our learning in this circumstances. With whatever we have, let us make our learning going on. I'll be dealing with your science 1 for this academic year. Before we start, I want my students to maintain a 200 pages long book. Okay? And as the lecture goes on, whatever I ask you to note it down, I want you to note those definitions or short answers in your long book. So whenever we are meeting, I want you to be present with that long book, with my Science 1 book. Okay, hope you all are safe and sound. Let us get started. As you all know, the first chapter is gravitation. Gravitation is not a new word for you, correct, no? We have before this dealt with gravitation or gravitational force. So what is gravitation? Gravitation is a type of force. So when I say the word force, force means for any object to be moving. For example, suppose if I have this book here, for the book to move, I have to apply force. So this is applied force. So there are different types of forces. So taking the name of God, I want you all to write the name of the chapter. I have written in my blackboard. My blackboard will be coming soon. Please write down the name of the chapter, Gravitation. Yeah. And write down force. Below that, effects of force. Hope you all are noting it down. Name of the chapter, force, effects of force. What are the effects of force? Write down point wise. Force is required to set an object in motion. Means I have to lift this book up and displace it from one position to the other. For that I am applying force. So force, effect of force, first point, to set an object in motion. Okay. Number 2. What are the other effects of force? Few of you might be knowing it. Many points may be coming into your mind. We will discuss few of that together. Second effect of force. You see an object coming towards you. An object is already in motion. You want to stop that object. Again you apply force. Okay. So first is to set an object in motion, and second point is to stop a moving object. All these are the effects of force. Understood? Next, you can apply force and change the shape of an object. For example, a sponge ball, you can change the shape of that object, or a dove that you make for chapati. Okay, you can give it a small roll, or you can give it any shape, a rectangular chapati, a circular chapati, whatever it is. So, force, third point you will write, to change the shape of an object. To change the shape of an object. Okay. Next, as we move ahead, again, suppose you are cycling. You are riding a bicycle, and when will the cycle move ahead? When you apply pedal. Okay. So, when you apply pedal, the cycle gets the word, the speed increases. What is the word that we dealt in the 9th standard? The cycle gets accelerated. Okay. So, you will write the fourth point, to increase acceleration, or to get the object accelerated. Anyway, you can write to increase speed, or to set it under acceleration. Hope you all are noting the points. Okay. So these are few effects of force. Hope you all are finding it easy. Please go through the points that I made you to write. I made you to note down the effects of force. Understood, children? These are few effects of force. Now next subheading you give types of forces. Which are the types of forces? Few types of forces you may recollect. Make a note of that in your mind. We will discuss it soon. Okay, made a list. You may be knowing many types of forces. First, of course, gravitational force is one type of force. Another type of force, yes? No. A few of you may be saying electrical force. You can note it down. Write down the heading as subheading as types of forces. First one, gravitational force. Second, electrical force. Third, frictional force. Friction or frictional force. Okay? If there is less friction during rainy season and all, there are lot of accidents. Correct, no? So frictional force. Next, which is the other type of forces that you may recollect? Nuclear force. So make a note of that, nuclear force. Then, again, example, this pen. This pen, until and unless I apply force, it will not move. So this is another type of force. Write down applied force. Applied force. Okay. Magnetic force, the force given out by magnets. We know that if you have a magnet, suppose if you have a magnet, this is the north pole and this is the south pole. So onto the end of the magnet, the magnetic force is maximum. So we have another type of force, magnetic force. Like that you can just give me few names. Make a list of types of forces as you remember the types of forces that you came across until your science journey till today. Okay children, so these were force, effects of force and types of force that we discussed. Now we move ahead. This chapter revolves around many scientists and their work. Okay, to talk about, before Newton we had Kepler, but I'll talk about Kepler in the coming class. Let us first discuss about respected Sir Isaac Newton. So write down his name, Sir Isaac Newton. Born in the year 1642. Born in the year 1642. Isaac Newton, as you all know, he was not a bright child during his school days. Okay, I don't want you to note it down, just a little bit extra information. Sir Isaac Newton, during his school days, he was not a very brilliant child. Actually, his life story is little bit disappointing, but in all that circumstances, he came up as a well-known scientist. There is no discovery without applying the laws of Newton. Okay, can you recollect few laws of Newton? Newton's laws of motion that you did in your 9th standard. Newton's first law of motion, Newton's second law of motion. Do you recollect those laws? If you don't, this is your homework. You have to open your textbook, 9th standard textbook, run through the pages. Newton's first law of motion, Newton's second law of motion, Newton's third law of motion. I hope you remember Newton's third law of motion. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Please revise those laws. Now, coming back to Newton's life. Newton was a premature baby. Okay, he was at the time of birth he was very weak. And then as he grew, he did not have many friends and all in his school days. He was considered to be a weak child, not so good in studies. He used to stay with his grandparents and all. So he was a neglected child, we can say. And later on his mother wanted him to go for farming, but he was always fascinated by the planets and stars and asteroids and all. He wanted to learn more about space. So with that in mind, when he came to know that he will have to discontinue his studies, he gave his best. He made his academics better, and then he successfully completed his graduation. And as he was going for his degree in arts, UK was affected, the city where he stayed was affected by plague. So the people had to go under lockdown mode as we are now. So when he was under the lockdown mode, he used to stay with his mother and he used to do certain experiments on gravity. And it was during that time that he gave us the law of gravity and all, the universal law of gravity and all. It was under those time that he came up with those inventions and discoveries. Okay, so this much I wanted to share with you all in detail. If you want, if you are interested, you can anytime check in and read more about Sir Isaac Newton. So Sir Isaac Newton and gravitation, which is a famous story, Apple story. Okay, it happens that people say when we were kids, we were told that apple fell on his head and all, but actually nothing like that happened. Once upon a time he was just sitting somewhere and he happened to see an apple falling from a tree, and not like us, we as kids used to run and pick up the apple and we used to have a bite of that. But Newton was a little different. What did he do? He started thinking, why this apple is falling down? Why is it not going sideways? Or why the apple is not flying up? Why is it coming down? Why the motion is in vertically downward direction? From here he started thinking, he did many studies, and then he came to the conclusion that why is the apple coming down from the tree vertically downwards? It is because of some force or some attraction by the earth on the apple. Okay, some attraction. So if I show you, suppose this is the tree and we have an apple. This apple is falling down in vertically downward direction. This apple is falling vertically downward direction because of the pull by the earth. And this pull by the earth, we call it as gravitation. So later he came to the conclusion that there is some sort of gravitation or gravitational pull or the attractive pull. All these are the words used for gravitation. Attractive pull or gravitational pull. So there is some attractive pull which the earth is exerting on that apple, and because of that the apple is coming vertically downward. Okay. So what is the direction of that gravitational force? It is directed towards the center of the earth, in vertical direction towards the center of the earth. I hope you understood. So I want you to note this down. Now you will start noting it down. I repeat, we had noted down the effects of force, types of force. Now we will be writing about gravitational force. Please make a note of it. Gravitational force is a force of attraction. Gravitational force is a force of attraction which exists between any two objects. Gravitational force is a force of attraction which exists between any two objects in the universe. Force of attraction which exists between any two objects in the universe. Now this whitener and this pen, they both have some force of attraction. This pen, this whitener is exerting some force on this pen, as well as this is exerting some force on this whitener. Now how much is that force? Mathematical formula and all, we will be deriving it in the coming lectures. Hope you all wrote. What is gravitational force? It is a force of attraction between two objects anywhere in the universe. Okay, give it a star mark. Gravitation. Understood till here? Newton. Okay, so how did he think? Why is the apple falling directly down? So what is the direction of that gravitational force? Continue. The direction of the gravitational force is in vertically downward direction. The direction of the gravitational force is vertically downward. The direction, I want you to write, the direction of the gravitational force is in vertically downward direction. Hope you all made a note of it. So I want you to repeat it now. Repeat with me. Repeat with me as we do it in the class. Gravitational force is the force of attraction between any two objects anywhere in the universe, and the direction of gravitational force is directly, vertically downward direction. Gravitational force is the force of attraction between any two objects in the universe, and its direction is in vertically downward direction. You can write in your own words this, because it's not a definition type. We are explaining what is gravitational force. Okay. So when we meet next, I'll be asking you this. I want you to by heart, what is gravitational force? Last time I say, what is gravitational force? Gravitational force is the force of attraction between any two objects in the universe, and the direction of gravitational force is in vertically downward direction. Understood? Now when Newton used the example of an apple. Now he started thinking higher. So apple is here on the tree. Now he started thinking about things which are much higher. So much higher means, where are we going? We are going into the space. So if earth is exerting gravitational force on the apple, then obviously, certainly there will be some force of attraction between the earth and who is little more higher? The moon or the sun. Okay. But talking about sun, we will discuss it later. So if earth is exerting a gravitational force on the apple, then there will be some force on the moon also. Some force on the moon also. Yes. So always there is a force of gravitation between the earth and the moon. To explain this, I have this setup. With whatever I had, I made this. Please see. Now I have a string and I have tied a stone onto the end of the string. This, during our childhood days we have done this without knowing that this is called as something. What is that something? I will tell you. So let us assume, suppose I have a stone tied to the end of a string, and the other end of the string, with the other end of the string, I will try to rotate it. Did you see? Rotate it. So as you can see, which is this motion? Which type of motion is this? The object, that is the stone, is forming a circle, right? So the object is making circular motion. Which is the object? The stone is the object. Okay, as you can see, the object is making circular motions, and which is the force which is making this object move. Suppose I stop applying force. From here the force is applied. Suppose I stop applying this force. Do you think the object will move in this direction? See, it is making a proper orbit, as you can see. Once again, can you see? It is making a proper circular orbit. It is making a proper circular orbit. Okay? And where is the force? The force is directed towards the center. So here is the force, and because of this force, the object is moving in circular motion and the orbit is also fixed here. So if I leave it, if I stop applying force, now still I am applying force. Suppose if I stop applying force, I just leave it, then this object will fly off. The object will fly off tangentially. Suppose from here I leave it, then it will make a tangent here. Suppose I leave it from when it has reached the downward direction, the tangent will be formed in this way. And this force which I am applying here is not gravitational force. This force which is making the object to move in circular orbit and the direction is towards the center. This force is called as centripetal force. Okay, this force is called as centripetal force. Hope you all understood. With this example, best example to explain centripetal force. Okay, so I want you to note down this definition, very important definition, give a star mark. Define centripetal force. Define centripetal force. Write down. So this should be as per the textbook. Okay, so please write down. A force acting on an object. I want you to write a force acting on an object moving along a circular path. Force acting on an object. Force is acting on this object and it is moving in a circular path and is directed towards the center of the circle is called centripetal force. I repeat, force acting on an object moving along a circle or circular path and is directed towards the center of the circle is called centripetal force. I want you to repeat. The force acting on an object moving in a circular path, and is directed towards the center of the circle, very important, and is directed towards the center of the circle is called as centripetal force. So when I gave you this example, now it is very much clear why the moon is orbiting around the yes, earth. That's why we see the moon orbiting around the earth. We don't see the moon going this way or that way. It is covering a proper circular path. It is not actually circle. That by Kepler and all will see what is the actual orbit called as. For the time being, this moon is rotating or around the earth because of centripetal force. Having said that, now you will be able to imagine the other planets revolve around which? What? The other planets revolve around the sun. Okay. So see, this is the reason why the planets are not falling onto the sun. They have a specific orbit and they are orbiting around the sun. Same way, satellites orbit around the planets. Okay? I repeat, because of the centripetal force, it is the centripetal force which makes the moon revolve around the earth, and same centripetal force is making the other planets revolve around the sun. Hope it is clear for you all. So now, till now, what all things we discussed? Just a recap. We discussed gravitation as a force. Gravitation is a force of attraction between any two objects in the universe. Okay? And what is the direction? It is vertically downward direction, the direction of the force. Then we discussed about effects of force. In that we discussed a few points, few more in the coming lectures we will be discussing that. Shape changes, size changes, then speed changes, or we use the word accelerated. Hope it is clear. Direction also changes when you apply force. Those who know to drive, or those who almost all of us know, direction also changes, shape changes, size changes. Hope it is clear. Then we moved on to types of forces. Frictional force, applied force, electric force, magnetic force, all these forces names we made a list. Then I asked you to write down what is Newton's gravitational force, what is the direction, how he came up with this gravitational force. The apple, why the apple fell directly in vertical direction, why the apple did not go sideways. That was the first thought that came into the mind of Newton. Understood till here? Then we discussed about most important force, that is centripetal force. So why are the planets revolving around the sun? It is because of the center seeking force or the centripetal force. Same. So if I have this object, so this let us suppose this is the moon. This is the moon. This is the moon, right? And here we have the earth. So because of the force exerted by the earth on the moon, the force is called as centripetal force. The moon is making circular orbits. Is it clear? So I want you to by heart the definition of centripetal force when we meet in the next class. Okay? And talking about Newton, we have a paragraph given in the textbook. Kindly go through that. You should remember the name of the book which he published, Principia. In that, I told you during his school days, as he was in graduation, when he was in college itself, he discovered some mathematical formulas which were called to be calculus. So when you go to your 12th standard and all, you will be dealing with those mathematical formulas. So Newton is not going to leave us, and he will be with us as we move ahead. And all the discoveries, let it be a cycle or an aircraft, every discovery is somehow or the other taking the help, keeping into consideration Newton's laws of motion. Okay? Please go through that paragraph, and I want you to read that paragraph and write a note. Some instrument he invented an instrument. I want you to write the name of that instrument. You will get it in your textbook. Is it clear? Now in the coming days, in the next session, we will be talking about Kepler. Okay? So take care. Wash your hands in between. Hope you all understood. Okay? Till we meet.